All right, let's start off with a brief meditation. Close your eyes and take some slow, deep, relaxing breaths. And we picture ourselves on top of a beautiful mountain in the center of a circular grove of trees. And in the center of our grove, a beautiful bonfire blazes forth, and this fire lights us and the grove up with a sacred golden light. And we invite into this sacred space all the teachers, angels, deities, spirit guides, the sky above us, the earth below us, all the elements. And we are together. We have been drawn together to learn the ways of magic so that we can become more powerful, happier, and more peaceful people. Together we say, blessed be. Okay, so I'm going to start out with just a real quick, or as quickly as we need to. If you can just, when you're ready, unmute yourself and we can go ahead and speak. Anybody that has any questions or comments about the work that they've done this week thus far with this new class? Questions or comments? Nobody?
Hello.
Hi.
Ariel?
Yes.
Crystal?
Hi.
Wow, it seemed like a lot of stuff. I stuck with it, and I'm so glad that I was able to do what I was able to do, and I think I got through it. Wow. It was good. It's good.
What did you notice was the most difficult thing for you to do this week?
Well, as far as doing the work, the most difficult thing seemed to be writing the essay and getting a real good picture of what I want my life to look like.
Right.
Because I was all over the place. And but it did cause me to consider it more carefully, and I think that was a big help.
Well, good. And as we spoke about on the forum, for those of you that were on the forum discussion, that essay is typically very difficult for most of us, myself too. I also had a difficult time with doing that the first time I did it. So the thing about that is that it's a living document. It's not something that we did just for the homework, and it's something that you can live with for the rest of your life, because you can always keep revising and refreshing and upgrading it as you consider. And I would recommend that you take some time every week to look at that vision and to keep asking yourself, well, what do I want? What do I want? Rather than just letting yourself blow around like a leaf in the wind. Okay, who else?
I have a question.
Who's this?
Rosemary.
Hi.
With the essay, and I noticed that someone had made a comment in the forum, if we really just feel kind of a numbness or like we just don't know, like there's a total blank when we're drawing on what we want because there's nothing we feel we lack.
Well, I think that if that's the truth, that's great. But I think that that's an avoidance technique that most of us use. I'm not saying that that's true for you, but most of us use that to avoid digging a little deeper, because if we really didn't lack anything, if we really felt like everything was perfect in our lives exactly the way it was, we probably wouldn't be here. We would be on a different plane, because our goals here are to learn, and the only way to learn is to grow and to stretch. And most of us find that there is always something more that we are striving toward. And if not, I mean, if you really don't want anything out of this life, that's fine. But then magic isn't going to be very interesting for you, because even spiritual growth has its counterpart in the pragmatic world. Everything is reflected in everything else. In the Hermetic Laws, there is no such thing as a spiritual growth minus a pragmatic, physical, practical growth. They go hand in hand, as above, so below. So I would invite you to maybe dig a little deeper, and even just make it up. Just say, okay, I don't need anything. I don't want anything. Everything's perfect. But if I did, let's say I won the lottery, or let's say, somebody left me $3 million, what would I be doing? What would happen differently? Or, find ways to sort of, to kind of trick yourself into, what do I want? And I'm not telling you that you have to do anything. I mean, if this exercise just doesn't work for you and you don't want to have goals, that's fine. I mean, you don't have to. But for the kind of work that we're doing in this class, which is like I said when I talked about the class, promoted the class in the beginning, this is a class on practical magic. This is not a class about Wicca per se. It's not a class about about mythology and fairies and stuff like that. Those things have their place, but for us, we're looking at learning how to use magic to better our lives and to better the world. And that's what we're focusing on in this particular class. So I would recommend giving it another go and see if you can't come up with something. Okay?
Well, sure. For me personally, I'm sorry to just inflict this on everyone else, but it's like there's nothing there. There's no desire there, because I feel like, for lack of a better way of explaining it, that I'm vibrating on a very low level. Oh. Okay, so everything is just kind of like in a fog.
So maybe your desire is to vibrate on a higher level. Yes. Okay, so that's something you could put down. And if you were vibrating on a higher level, what might your life look like? If you knew that you were vibrating on a higher level and you were out of the fog, what do you think perhaps maybe some of the things you might be doing, being, and having would be? And just brainstorm. And nobody's going to check your work. And you can. It's not because if you put it on the list and you end up not wanting it that you can't cross it off the list. And it's not like if you forget to put something on the list and you remember it later, you can't add it to the list. It's just an exercise to start honing in. And I think the idea that you discovered, wow, I'm vibrating on this level where I don't even know what I want, is a good place to start. Now, there could be, and we're going to look at that a little bit more this week, because we're going to be talking about waning moon type magic and banishings. There may be a place at which you don't feel you deserve to have your life vibrate on a higher level. Where maybe
so that's obviously very
yeah, and that's a good thing to do too. So that could be something to put on your list to get to the point where I know I deserve to be happy, and I know I deserve to have what I want, and I know that I deserve to know what I want. Those are fine things to put on the list. Start with where you are.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. Those are really, really important, good questions. So don't ever worry about monopolizing our conversation with stuff like that, because that's important. Everybody has to just hold for just a moment, because the air went off and it is boiling in here. We are in Southern California. Hold on. So much better. Thank you. All right. Who else would like to say something or ask something? Make sure you unmute yourself. Otherwise, we won't be able to hear you. If you're on the phone, you just press pound twice. If you're on the computer, you just have to press the mute button to unmute yourself on the screen. Nobody? Nobody has anything? Okay. If you do, go ahead. Somebody have something?
Hi, can you hear me?
I sure can. Who is this?
This is Christine.
Hi.
And it's just more of a comment. I don't know. I've really enjoyed last week's work, and I didn't find it, it fit in easily with other things that I'm thinking about in life. And I guess just more of a comment and a thank you. It really helped me focus on some things, and especially the section on what do I need to forgive myself for? Because I think a lot of us, I know I do, have a lot of things I hold on to, that feeling you mentioned of undeserving.
Uh-huh.
And it was really good to examine, why do I feel that way sometimes? And what are things in my life that I haven't forgiven myself for? So
excellent.
I found this really a great exercise. So that's it. Thank you.
I'm so glad. No, I'm very glad you said that. You know, we're going to be talking a lot more this week and working with some of that stuff too. So, the rubber really meets the road this week. So, I lost my notes here. I'm trying to do everything on my computer screen. I should have printed stuff out. I'm sorry. Here we go. Okay. All right. So, okay. Anybody else while I'm getting organized? Anybody else have any questions or comments?
I have a question.
Yes. Who's this?
Hi, this is Aurora.
Hi, Aurora.
It's more like a technical question, I guess.
Okay.
Just about the meditation we were doing in the middle of the day or anytime.
Oh, the orb of light. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So I usually sit cross-legged on the floor or on a little pillow when I meditate, and I noticed that it said to sit in a chair with my legs not crossed, and so I guess I'm wondering how.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I should have given you the option. If you feel more comfortable meditating cross-legged on the floor, you're more than welcome to do that. But if you're sitting in a chair, don't cross your legs.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no, that's such a good point. Yeah, I like the chair for a lot of people, just because that way they don't feel like they have to keep their spine straight. They can actually have some spinal support so they can get into a deep state of relaxation. But if you're an experienced meditator and you're able to get into that trance state on the floor or on a meditation cushion, cross-legged, that's absolutely fine. But if you're in a chair, don't cross your legs, or your energy patterns are going to get a little bit haywire. But if you're sitting in like a half lotus or a lotus position on the floor, your energy patterns are going to be fine.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure, my pleasure. That was a really good question. I should have given that the option. You can either breathe out through your mouth or nose, but you must sit in a chair. Sorry about that. Okay. I've got time for another one or two questions if anybody has something before we get going. Okay. All right. So, so if you're not used to doing daily work, daily practice, and you're not used to doing a lot of magic, the first week might have felt a little bit like a marathon. I try to keep everything reasonable, because I don't want you to get burned out. I don't want you to think, oh my gosh, I can't do this. The good news is that the list making is something that you can continue doing for the rest of your life, but you don't need to start a new list this week. So just keep up with the old lists. Those lists that you've been having, I would recommend that you just glance over them at least once or twice a week. If you can do it once a day, that's great, because it keeps you clear on what you're doing. But get a little bit clear on your goals. Keep refining them. It's really good to take stuff off the lists and put new things on the lists, especially once things start manifesting, which they will. Okay? So don't think it was just like a one-time deal. Work with them. They're living, breathing documents, and try to work with them every week, at least once or twice a week. the 3 meditations, I tried to keep those short. Now, you'll notice that this week I want you to continue with those, and you're going to be actually continuing with those throughout the entire 6-week practice. However, if you decide that you are wanting to do it without the recording, now that you kind of get a gist of where I'm going with this, that's fine. You can do your own sort of version of it. You're more than welcome to keep using the recordings. There's nothing wrong with staying with the recordings if that keeps you focused. But if you prefer doing them on your own, or or switching off, one day you do it with the recording, one day you don't, that's fine. Just try to do your best to go through the steps that the recordings have you go through. The morning meditation, you're blessing your day. You're just moving that orb of light as a stream out into your day, kind of just taking a look at the energy field out in the immediate future of what the probable future is bringing you. And if there's stuff that you know that's coming up that's causing you any stress, you're going to go ahead and release that stress with the light from the orb, so that you're able to start to recalibrate that energy and make it focused into more of what you do want your day to look like. Again, just because you're doing that doesn't mean that there won't be wonderful surprises through your day. You're not. It's fine. You're not going to be an automaton where, okay, now I can will whatever I want to happen through the day. No, your day is going to present all kinds of great stuff for you, but your negativity that you put into your day will stop manifesting so much, because you're recalibrating your day. So your own yuck that you keep throwing on your energy patterns because you wake up in a bad mood, or you are afraid of what's coming up through the day, or you feel like a victim, or whatever the stuff is, you're starting to break through some of that and realizing, wow, I can really set the tone for my day. And in the middle of the day, when you do an orb of light meditation like that, any time of the day, you're also taking some power back, and you realize, wait a minute, all I have to do is find my magical center. And if something's not going my way, I can actually transform the energy, both emotionally and mentally, and then also the manifestation of that will automatically transform. That's not to say that you won't have challenges in life. Obviously, we all have lessons. And if you go to the gym, and you expect it always to be easy, and you don't want to break a sweat, then you're not going to get anything done. But the difference is if you have the right mindset and you're doing the kind of exercise you enjoy, you don't mind breaking a sweat. It's actually fun. And that's what we're getting into with our lives, so that the lessons that we're learning are actually joyful, even though they can be hard in a good way. The good kind of hard, like when you're, like I said, really building up a sweat. Then the other meditation at the end of the day is not only you're looking back over your day, so that you can start to recalibrate stuff that happened in the past. So you're sending that light backwards in time into the immediate past, so that you can recalibrate those energy patterns that were not to your liking, and you can basically reset your energy. And then you're moving into your sleep time with a goal in mind, that you're actually going to allow your deep mind to work on a project or an issue or a problem for you, so that you can actually get it solved very quickly. So that you'll notice that the last thing that you do before you go to sleep is whatever you've been working on, you turn it into an easy 1 or 2 word phrase that you repeat over and over to yourself. And you take it into sleep, knowing that your deep mind is on the job. Okay? So those are the kinds of things that you're doing every day. And again, it doesn't need to take more than a few minutes for each of those exercises. So if you're like, oh God, I don't have time for this, it's really no big deal. You can do it, right? You can do the morning meditation like right when you're having coffee if you want. You can do the evening meditation, just as you're settling down to go to sleep, You can do that orb of light meditation in like 4 to 5 minutes is all it'll take. So keep everything short and doable. All right. So now I want to start adding a couple things, though, to your daily practice. One thing is I want you to start with working with a magical diary. It can be anything. It can be elaborate looking. It can be a little notebook. I don't care. Just a magical diary. Keep it easy. keep it really, really easy. All you have to do is any kind of work you've done that day magically is just write the date and write down what you did. And if there is any kind of perspective that you have on it, if you have any response to the work that you've done, write that down. If you've had any kind of results from magic, write those down. It shouldn't take you more than 1 or 2 minutes to jot down in your magical diary what magic you've worked on that day. Even if it's, I did my morning, evening meditation, orb of light. Everything seemed good. I didn't do my evening meditation, but I did my morning meditation and orb of light. I was really stressed out today and I didn't want to. Write that down. I did nothing today. Fuck this. I don't like it. Pardon my French. I'm sorry. I know that I should watch my language. I'm so bad. Please forgive me. Forget this. I don't want to do anything today. Write that down. Okay? So whatever you did that day, magically write it down. And again, only give yourself 1 or 2 minutes. That's all you need. If you are inspired to write more, do so. If you are inspired to write more, do so. But you don't have to do these long journaling exercises. So that's one thing you're going to be adding is your your magical diary. Another thing you're going to be adding is your magic mirror exercise. Okay, try to do this every day. If you can't, it's not like you fail, because this is stuff that you're going to incorporate into your long-term practice anyway. So don't get too stressed out about stuff and get really hard on yourself if it's not perfect and you don't do everything. But get a mirror. Get a little mirror, a big mirror, whatever kind of mirror you feel like. It can be a kind of mirror that sits on your altar. It can be like what I like. I like my handheld mirror because I feel like it's an extension of me when I'm holding it. If that doesn't feel right to you, get a mirror, something that you can have on your altar and that you can put away when you're not using it. So you don't want to hang a mirror on your altar, in front of your altar, because that's too distracting. Because you're going to be doing a little mirror exercise at one point during the day, and it's described in your homework. And basically, what you might want to do is to have just a pad and paper next to you, so you can write down any negative any negative responses, especially that may come up with it. And you're going to just basically, it doesn't have to be verbatim, but you basically are going to look in at your eyes in the mirror with again, like we described last week, with the lights dimmed. Candlelight is perfect, but not a lot of light, so that it's not like a true reflection. It's more of the reflection of you your inner you. And you're just going to look in your eyes and you're going to tell yourself, you're going to speak to yourself in the second person. You are a beautiful and powerful person. You deserve to have all that you desire. I love you and I approve of you right now, exactly as you are. And you're going to say that several times, right into your eyes, and notice the response that you get. And just write those thoughts down. Just keep a little bit of a journal of those thoughts that you're getting. Because remember, magic will not happen if you don't love yourself. Why would you want to give yourself all of these goodies if you think you are not good enough, if you think you're too this, too that, not enough of this, not enough of that, if you are always on your case, if you're always nagging on yourself, if you're bullying yourself, So it's really important to start the magic mirror exercise on a daily basis if possible, for the rest of your life if possible. You get to the point where every time you do your hair or fix your makeup or you notice your reflection, you just say, hey, love you. And you start to mean it. But it may take some time. So just start with where you are. If you feel silly, if it feels stupid, write that down. It's fine. It's fine. Just do your best to just do it. Don't spend more than a minute or two with it and just see what happens. Okay, let's get into the lecture part of the class tonight. Let's talk about the difference between magic and superstition. I want to be really clear that a very powerful magician or witch are not superstitious people. They're very sort of pragmatic. They have a healthy skepticism with everything, and results are the only way that they know that something's working for them. If you're not getting results, then it's not working. So you don't want to just believe in it because it's some superstitious thing. A lot of the tools that we use, a lot of the symbols that we use are very old, ancient symbols. They are things that are really part of our the zeitgeist of our deep minds. They're part of the fabric or common language of the collective unconscious mind. But it can be so easy to say, don't let this happen or that'll happen. Like if you broke a candle, then that means your spell won't come true. It's like, not necessarily, because you're the witch. All you would have to do is just bless the candle and throw it away. Just release the energy from the candle and throw it away. If you broke a mirror, 7 years of bad luck. No, all you have to do is bless the mirror and throw it away. Don't walk under a ladder. No, walk under the ladder. Bless the ladder. Walk under it if you need to, and don't worry about it. Go about your way. A witch is not superstitious because she's not bound by that stuff. So don't allow yourself to get involved in any kind of silly mumbo jumbo, superstitious Wicca nonsense that has, it's invariable. Every kind of spiritual or religious system starts to get mucky with a lot of their superstitions, and we don't want to get into that at all. We want to just have ourselves be one with our own power. Think of life as having an intelligence, that there's a supreme intelligence that makes flowers grow, that makes plants grow, that makes the sun, and that makes the planets revolve around the sun, makes the seasons. It knows how to turn, oxygen into energy in your bloodstream, and it knows how to digest your food. It grew you out of an embryo. It's able to grow hair on your body. It's able to do all kinds of things. And that same intelligence is the intelligence that we tap into when we work with magic. And that intelligence, I promise you, is not superstitious. It does not care about ladders and and mirrors breaking and all that stuff. It doesn't care. Now, symbols can be used by your deep mind to communicate with you. So omens definitely can work. So there are certain, like I said, there's certain symbolism that we will be using, and you'll be getting more and more versed in the language of symbolism that you'll be using, so that your deep mind can give you signs and omens and indications of how and where the manifestations of your magical work are to be had, and that is fine. But you don't want to confuse the symbol with the reality. So be very aware of the fact that we are very into taking our power back and allowing ourselves to grow magically, and not be bound by any kind of rules that somebody tells us are out there. Question everything. Question all of it, and you'll be a much better, much more powerful witch. This week we're going to be working with, actually the next 2 weeks, we're going to be working with waning moon magic. We're working with banishing. So on your list that you had last week, there was a list of things you wanted to eliminate and things that you wanted to forgive yourself for and things like that, and people you maybe needed to forgive. So all that negative stuff, you want to go through that list a little bit this week and choose one thing, just one thing, that over this whole waning moon cycle, sometime before the next new moon, you're going to perform a banishing spell. This is going to be the first spell that we give you in this course, and it's pretty well spelled out how you work it. Hopefully, everybody was able to get to download the planetary correspondences. I put those up there. If not, you might want to download those now. So go to the website that has all of your homework downloads, and download those, because I want to talk a little bit about that. I always forget to look at this and make sure that there's nothing I need to see on the little chat screen here, because I never look at it. So anyway, so what you're going to do is you're going to find one thing you want to get rid of. You get no sound. You can't hear us. I don't know. Is anybody else having a hard time hearing me? Does everybody hear me so far? Everybody's okay hearing me other than the one?
I can hear you. It does take a couple of seconds for it to come up.
Okay. All right. So, okay, Sabrina, you have a question. Is there any way that you can unmute and ask your question online? Oh, you don't have a mic. Okay, go ahead and ask. Ask your question and type it. And while you're typing it, I'm going to talk a little bit. So you're going to take your list of things that you're trying to eliminate, and you're going to choose one. And then you're going to go through the list of planetary correspondences that you've downloaded, and you're going to look at all of especially if you're not familiar with what each of the planets rules, and you're going to figure out which planet it rules. All right. So, okay, for the forgiveness part, you go ahead and type your question. Okay, I believe no one has to forgive me. I have a hard time writing what I need to be forgiven for by others. Okay, so you've never done anything that you feel guilty about or anything like that. And that's fine if you don't, and just if you feel like you don't ever have, that you're not holding any guilts or resentments or remorses about things in the past that are not cleared up, that's fine. But if you do, just write those down. Most of us have stuff like that come up on a regular basis. Okay, they don't have to forgive you. How about the people that you want to forgive you instead of have to forgive you? Let's put it that way. People that you would like to forgive you still. Yeah. All right. So once you've decided what planetary correspondence, then we can move forward with the banishing spell. So this is going to be an interesting journey. So for instance, if I, just real practically, I wanted to get rid of let's say I had an old a student loan that I would like to just get rid of that old debt because it was hanging around. I'm making the payments, but it's been, I don't want to pay the interest. I want to get rid of that debt. Well, I would just look at the planetary correspondences, and I'd look and say, okay, debts. Saturn rules debts. I could use Saturn. Jupiter rules money. I could probably use Jupiter. So for me, then you'd have to look through the list and look through the colors and see which one you feel is best for you. To me, debts, a good old standing debts would be Saturn because it's old, it's been around a while, it's a debt. To me, that would be Saturn. So I know that I'm going to be doing a Saturn banishing spell. So I would go through that list of that list of planetary correspondences. And again, this is a basic list of correspondences. Those correspondences are a lot more intense than that little list that I've given you. These are just the basic ones. And first thing I want to do is to look and see, well, what is the Auric color for banishing in there? So if you have that planetary correspondences list, you can look at it and you can see that there is a Auric color for Saturn. The banishing is indigo and the attracting is violet. So if I'm doing a Saturn spell in the system that we're working with in this class, the Auric color, which I will explain in a minute what we're going to do with the Auric color, the Auric color I want to be using this week for whatever planet I'm working in is the Banishing Auric color. Now, for other spells during the waxing moon, I will be using the opposite. I will be using the Attracting Auric color. Because you'll notice that there's other colors that go along with Saturn. If you're seeing Saturn there, you'll see, oh, okay, there's other colors that I can use. I can use violet, I can use indigo, I can use black, I can use brown, and I mean even gray. You could probably use. There's other colors. I mean, there's no real right or wrong. But for the frequencies that we're working with in the spell work, the auric colors, I would use the ones given in these lists for now until you become a lot more adept at working this kind of magic, because we are actually going to be using and you'll notice when you do the recording that I'm giving you for this, there's an actual recording for the banishing that you can use to do the spell with. Your orb of light will start taking on the color of the banishing planetary auric color. And that is going to key into that aspect of the planet in order to start to dissolve the energy pattern and thought form that is causing this thing to be in your life in the first place. So the difference between banishing spells and any other kind of spells is with a regular spell where you're wanting to create something or attract something, you are building and creating a thought form. You are building energy patterns, belief patterns, thought patterns into a strong thought form, which then manifests ultimately on the physical plane. With a banishing spell, you are breaking up existing thought forms, because you're doing spell work whether you know it or not. Anything in your life that you're experiencing, on some level, somewhere, you have a hand in it. So even if there's something in your life that you feel like, well, there's not, I want to get rid of it, but that's not my fault, or I'm not responsible for this. On some level, yes, you are. On some level, yes, you are. Some level, you are keeping that energy pattern, that thought form alive, and that's what banishing is going to do. It's going to break up that thought form so that it can get released and dissolved, and you can get something else. There are two people that come from the same neighborhood. They have the same socioeconomic backgrounds. Let's say that they come from the same family, so they have the same. Let's say they're twins, and they have the same. They're from the same generation. They have the same exact parents. They were raised in the same household with the same food, right? One of them can't seem to ever. They have the same opportunities. One of them can't ever seem to get a job, and the other one is the head of his own company. And they both came from the so-called wrong side of the tracks. Well, what's the difference? Well, one of them had one thought form and one of them had another thought form. And so if the one of them that can't ever get a job, or can't hold on to a job and can't get his life to work, he needs more than to just get a job. He has to break up the pattern that is causing him to have this problem in the first place. So that's what we're going to start with. I know a lot of people think that you should start with attracting spells, but this is one of the reasons why I wanted to start this class off when we did, is so that the first week of spellcasting would be the first week of the waning moon, so that you'd have 2 whole weeks to do your first banishing, so that you can realize that this banishing is so positive, because what you're doing is you're creating a vacuum. And even if you didn't do something to attract, just creating the vacuum and keeping your aura clean by doing these daily exercises, you would notice that the energy patterns in your life just automatically clear up. But we're going to take it farther than that so that you can actually start creating what you do want. But even if you only did the banishing and you did your regular spiritual purifications and these meditations, you would notice that things start to clear up. It's fascinating how this works. And so people get really weird about banishing. They think, well, first of all, let's do this. Let's say that you have before you can even do a banishing spell, you need to look at what it is that you're banishing, and this is in your homework as well. And so, what you're going to do is you're going to take a piece of paper out, and this can be on a day before you decide that you're going to do this spell. So, let's say we're doing that spell on Saturn. With Saturn energy. So I know I want to do it on a Saturday because Saturn is ruled by Saturday. So let's say, okay, well, I can't do it yesterday, so I'm going to do it next Saturday. That's the last Saturday of this waning moon. So I'm going to do it next Saturday. And what I want to do is sometime before then, I want to take a piece of paper and I'm going to write at the top of the piece of paper what the name of the condition is. So this old student loan. And then I'm going to ask myself, what are some of the beliefs and energy patterns and thought patterns that I have that are keeping this happening for me? And just start brainstorming. The reason why this is in my life is. The reason why this is in my life. I keep asking myself that over and over, and I just, stream of conscious, start listing stuff as it comes up, whether it makes sense or not. The reason why I feel that this is in my life is because I'm stupid. I'm not good enough. Because the government is corrupt. This, that, the other thing, over and over again, till you get a list of things about a page long, and it should only take you about maybe 5-10 minutes to get a page long. Because if it's something you really want to get rid of, there's a lot of ick in there. There's a lot of charge. There's a lot of, you're angry, you're upset, you're disappointed, you're whatever. All of these things, you're going to write all of it down and make a list of it. And then on a separate sheet of paper, you're going to take each of those thoughts and you're going to find a way to flip it around. So you're going to, that'll take you another 5 or 10 minutes. It really shouldn't take that long. Maybe 30 minutes tops for this exercise. And this you only have to do once. You don't have to do it every day. This is just once for this particular item that you are banishing this month. And you only have to do one banishing spell this month, but do one. Please do one. I want you to get into doing magic right away. So the second sheet of paper, let's say that I have one of the reasons why I feel like I have this debt that won't go away is because I'm really horrible with money. I'm just going to flip it around. I'm just going to put I'm very good with money. I'm a financial whiz, something like that. Another one is my parents never taught me about money. I forgive my parents completely, and I am now wise with money. The reason why I have this is because I'm just not good enough. I'm good enough. Whatever it is, try your best to not overthink it and just flip it around to as clearly of an opposite thought as you can make it. And don't think about it. Don't dwell on it. Just make the list. Just make the list, whether or not you think it's silly or whether it applies to you. Just make the list. Now, then that you, because of this planetary correspondences sheet that you have here, what day of the week you're going to be doing it in. So for this one, we're doing it on Saturday. So that you want to do your spell on a Saturday. Don't worry about the planetary hour. I know we talked about that in the primer. Anytime on Saturday is fine. Anytime on Saturday is fine. Morning, noon, or evening. As long as it's after sunrise on Saturday morning and before sunrise on Sunday morning, you're golden. You're good to go. And then all you have to do is the simplest way to do this spell is to set your list of the negatives in front of you on your altar. Put on your headphones, listen to the tape. When the tape is over, burn or tear up that list, and then read through out loud once through the list of the positives, and you're done. Now, in the homework, you notice that I've given you some options if you want to make it more witchy, which I always like to do because I think it's more fun and it seems to be more effective. So you can have a candle that is the closest candle you can find to the auric color. Don't worry if it's perfect. So if you can't find an indigo candle, just find a dark blue candle, okay? And know that the candle is going to represent a more of a deep, dark, beautiful, vibrant indigo that you're going to do your best to visualize in your mind. And again, don't worry if it's perfect. The planets get it. Because you're working with planetary genius energy. It gets what you're doing. I promise. It really gets it. So you're going to put that on the altar. You're going to put your candle on your altar. You'll anoint that candle with an oil. You can either use your basic anointing oil that you have if you've gotten it, which means you can just use olive oil with a little piece of salt, a little bit of salt in it. That's fine. You can use that for all your candle magic. Or if you want to get, a little bit more woo-woo, you can make the Saturn oil. There's a recipe in there for you, and you can make Saturn oil. If you don't have time or money to make the whole Saturn oil, but you want to get something a little bit more Saturnian than just olive oil, then just take one of the ingredients out of the recipe. Just one little ingredient, like one of those essential oils, like say patchouli. You'll notice in the incense there's patchouli. You could use a little bit of patchouli oil in your olive oil, or maybe you could use a little bit of imitation musk or imitation civet. Oh, there's a typo. Cypress civet is not something. It's cypress. It should be cypress, civet. I'm sorry. Or a little bit of myrrh oil if you have it, whatever. So you don't need anything fancy. You can use olive oil. And all you do to anoint your candle is if you're using a regular candle, like a regular pillar candle or a taper candle, you just take a little bit of the oil on your finger, and from the center of the candle up to the wick, you just rub a little oil, and then from the center of the candle down to the base, you rub a little oil. And then you're done. If you're using like a tea light or a jar candle, you just take a little bit of the oil on your fingers, and you just anoint the wick. You just put it on the wick, and you can even anoint the wax on the top. That's fine. Now, then so you've got your anointed candle on your altar. You've got your list of negatives right in front of that candle. Now, if you want to use some incense, you can either use your basic altar incense, one of those formulas, either the really simple one or one of the more complex ones. Or if you want to do something Saturnian, which is fine, you can either make the Saturn incense that I've given you the full recipe for, or you can just take one of the ingredients. You might want to burn a little myrrh, for instance, on your charcoal. That would be a good one. Okay? So you don't get too superstitious about this stuff. It's not the incense and the oil that's going to make the spell powerful. It's the spell that's going to make the spell powerful. Use what you have and what you can afford. And if you don't want to use oil and incense or candles, you don't need them. You'll be able to do just as effective of a spell without all that. You can just use your list and the recording. That's fine. Okay, so far, are there any questions with what I'm saying? Is this too much too fast? No? Okay. Banishing poor eating habits, a ruling planet there. There are several. Okay, again, that's going to be up to you to see which one are you more attracted to. Do you feel like that you eat to stuff your emotions? If so, then you might want to use the moon. If you are eating because you are lazy, you might want to use Saturn. If you're eating, if you're eating because you don't have enough time and you can't focus, you might want to either use Saturn or maybe even Mercury. So go through there. And again, if you make a bad choice on the planets, they will forgive you and you will still get results. If you do not know what planet rules, use Mercury or you can use the moon. Mercury is the messenger of the gods, and the energy will always find the right planet to take it to. The moon focuses all of the cosmic rays onto the earth, even the sun, and she also can utilize whatever is necessary for your spell. So if you can't figure it out, do your best to try to figure it out because it's good for you. But if you can't figure it out, use Mercury or you could use the moon. So Yeah, if it's stress, if you're stress eating, you could do the moon. You might even, for you, if you're eating because of anger issues or something like that, you might even use Mars. That's up to you. You go through the list and see which planet is calling you, and see if it doesn't make some sense, because you can almost make any planet work if you have it from the right perspective. But overeating is usually the moon, for the most part. So anyway, so there you have that, and where's my cheat sheet? What did I just do? I've got way too many windows open here. I am so sorry, everybody. Oh, here we go. So you're now when you do a spell with a candle. Oh, that's right. After you've done with the meditation, like I said, you're going to either ignite the paper of the negatives from the spell candle and watch it burn in your thurible or a little prayer bowl or some receptacle that's not going to, you don't want to burn the house down, obviously. But burn it, or just rip it up. Just tear it up and throw it in the garbage. Don't worry about it. There's no demons in the paper. Like, again, don't be superstitious. It's all a symbolic gesture. The burning is great because you're releasing it into the fire. It's wonderful. But if that doesn't feel good to you, and you don't want to have the smoke in your house or whatever, just tear it up. Tear it up and throw it away. It's fine. It's no big deal. When you are using a candle in a spell, it's good magical practice to let that candle burn down and out by itself. But if you are having to go somewhere, you must snuff the candle. Don't leave a candle unattended. You can burn it down later. You can keep lighting that candle for as long as it takes to burn it out. But a general tip when you're doing spells is use a tiny little tea light, the little white tea lights, the little ones that you get at like Pier 1 or one of those things. They don't burn for very long. They've got a nice metal base so that it collects the wax, and stick it inside of a glass votive candle holder that's the appropriate color of what you're using. Not only is it easier and it burns faster, but the light that emanates from it glows the color that you're working on. I find it much more satisfying than a colored candle, personally. Not only that, but if you're later on when you're starting to do more witchy things with your candles, you can actually put sand inside the bottom of the votive holder and put herbs in with the sand and all kinds of stuff. So I prefer a colored votive candle holder and the little tea lights. That's my preferred way of doing candle magic. But some people like colored wax, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with using colored wax. But again, don't leave a candle unattended. I've had witch friends of mine who thought they were really nifty burn their houses down. It has happened. Luckily, nobody was hurt, but they lost everything because they left their altars going without being around them. So if you're not there, put out the candles and burn them later. Don't think that you have to keep a candle burning. I'm serious. Don't leave a candle unattended. Only banish one time for a single item. Don't do a 7-day spell on this. Don't continue to do it. Do it one time. Okay? Because the more you focus on something, then you start creating it. We're trying to release something. We're trying to get rid of something. We are trying to dissolve something. Let it go. And that's why you have that other list of things that you've turned it into positives. Focus on those thoughts instead. That will continue to dissolve the thought form in a way that is much more proactive toward you getting what you do want, rather than starting to reinforce the negative pattern. Because it's okay to banish something. It's okay to name the thing that you're letting go, but you don't want to dwell on it. You don't want to dwell on it, because then you start actually using your mind to create it and to reinforce it. So it's all right I mean, some people say, oh, you should never banish because as soon as you name something and you focus on it, you're creating it. I don't agree with that. You have to look at what you don't want. You have to allow for it to see what it is and see what the patterns are and allow for it to be broken up and to release it. But you don't want to keep banishing over and over and over again on the same thing. One time, you're done. And on the other side, on the waxing moon stuff, we can and do often do multiple times on the same item because we're building up thought forms rather than breaking them down. But if you start the breaking down process with the banishing, you can continue the breaking down process by going through and just even out loud stating the new positive thoughts or affirmations or whatever you want to call them that you have placed on your other paper. And if any of those really strike your fancy, you can turn those into waxing moon spell work, which we'll deal with on another week.